the man simply opened his eyes and sent the two people who were guarding him flying several meters away. Then he deployed hidden weapons and knocked down several people who came to suppress him. After a bloody confrontation, the man remained unharmed, while those who tried to restrain him had their throats slit. With such immense power, who was this man? The woman found herself surrounded by enemies, yet she remained calm and unaffected by their presence. Then the woman manipulated several beams of white light that ascended into the sky. She summoned thunderbolts that turned the enemy forces on the battlefield into dust in an instant. This woman's name is Moiraine, and at this moment, all she wants is to find the reincarnated dragon. However, she didn't expect this process to be exceptionally difficult. 3,000 years ago, the true dragon sacrificed its life to cage the evil dark. But now the dark is about to awaken once again, and only the reincarnated true dragon can stop him. To prevent the dark's return, the Aes Sedai Moiraine and her guardian Lan have been searching for the reincarnated dragon. Aes Sedais are similar to sorcerers. They possess extremely high magical powers and have the mission to maintain the order of the world. The role of the guardian is to protect the Aes Sedai, ensuring they remain unharmed, as the Aes Sedai's spellcasting must not be interrupted. The Aes Sedai is very vulnerable while casting spells, and easily susceptible to attacks. Therefore, Aes Sedai and Guardians work in pairs, and the two individuals have a contractual agreement between them. On a battlefield, a woman crouched behind a giant rock, preparing to give birth, but a blade suddenly attacked from the side. She dodged the attack and immediately stood up to fight back, but her unborn child stirred within her as she moved. In such a situation, any flaws shown by the woman would result in a fatal consequence for both her and her child. Therefore, she couldn't afford to give the enemy any chance. She swiftly grabbed the enemy's cloak and threw them to the ground with a leap. She raised her spear and thrust it straight into the enemy's skull. As she eliminated one assailant, two more enemies emerged from behind the woman. She lifted her spear and forcefully stabbed the enemy's abdomen right in front of her, then pulled it out. With a strong throw, the spear pierced through another enemy's skull 10 meters away. However, 3 more enemies rushed towards her, leaving the woman no time to catch her breath. She skillfully dodged their attacks. The woman engaged in a fierce battle with the 3 opponents. After identifying their vulnerabilities, she slashed the thighs of 2 enemies with her spear. Then, while they were down, she impaled the remaining enemy's abdomen with her spear. At that moment, her unborn child stirred once again, causing her immense pain. She struggled to endure the suffering and gasped for breath. Taking advantage of the situation, the 2 injured enemies behind her stood up, preparing to launch another attack. She immediately adjusted her posture, regulated her breathing, and prepared to face the enemy. She swung her spear in the air, crossing it twice. The first enemy's flesh was cut, causing him to kneel in pain. Seizing the opportunity, the woman impaled the enemy's neck with her spear. Now only one enemy remained. Just as the woman was about to slash the enemy's throat with her spear, her unborn child became restless, eager to enter the world. The pain drained her strength, and the enemy managed to grab her from behind, immobilizing her. The enemy stabbed her in the side with a dagger, causing her to almost lose consciousness from the pain. Considering her unborn child, she endured the pain and forcefully slammed her head backward, delivering a headbutt to the enemy. The enemy was dazed and blinded by stars. She seized the opportunity, took the enemy's dagger, and knocked them down. She used the dagger to stab the enemy's throat, killing them. Dragging her weary body, she crawled back to the rock, tore her pants open, and with her last ounce of strength gave birth to her child. She couldn't stand up anymore, and with her eyes open, she departed from this world. But what she didn't know was that the child she fought so hard to deliver was actually the reincarnation of a legendary true dragon. Time seemed to have passed indefinitely. The reincarnated true dragon from back then should now have grown into adulthood. Upon hearing that the reincarnated true dragon was living in Two Rivers Village, the two set off to find the true dragon. They arrived here. Two Rivers Village was like a paradise on earth. Everything here was so peaceful and pure. The villagers are celebrating Egwene's birthday. Today is her coming-of-age ceremony. Outside there are flashes of lightning and thunderclouds, but it doesn't affect everyone's mood. The villagers hold their glasses and happily drink and chat. Suddenly 2 strangers enter the tavern. Both of them are dressed in black robes. Their arrival disrupts the previously lively atmosphere inside the house. The room becomes quiet. The villagers look at the strangers in front of them. They can't help but feel nervous. The 2 individuals are Moiraine and Lan, who have come to find the true dragon. The woman finds the innkeeper. She presents the giant snake ring, symbolizing her status as Aes Sedai. Aes Sedai fight to maintain world peace, therefore they enjoy a high status. The innkeeper arranges a luxurious business suite for the two of them, but the villagers in the tavern gossip behind their backs. In such an isolated village like the Two Rivers, they have never seen such prominent figures as Aes Sedai before. Their arrival this time must signify something significant. The next day Lon is on the nearby mountain. He discovers a large number of goat carcasses. The bodies are arranged in an orderly manner. They form a comma shape. Lon immediately realizes that the Dark has made a move. He needs to go back immediately and inform his partner. At this moment Moiraine is observing 4 young people in the village. They grew up together in the village. They are close friends. These 4 individuals are the most likely candidates for the reincarnation of the true dragon. The first person is Egwene, who came of age yesterday. The second person is Rand, who lives on the mountain with his father. The first 2 individuals are on a date. The third person is Perrin the blacksmith. The last one is Matt, who loves gambling. There are too few clues about the true dragon. Even Moiraine, who is Aes Sedai, doesn't know which of the 4 individuals is the reincarnated true dragon. Today is the festival of the beginning of spring. In the evening the villagers gather together to celebrate according to customs. Egwene is happily dancing with a boy. Suddenly the boy across from her is pierced through the chest by a sharp weapon and collapses breathless on the ground. Immediately after, countless Trollocs suddenly appear in the village. The villagers have never seen these kinds of Trolloc before, and they panic and flee in all directions. In front of the Trolloc the villagers are like infants. They are destroying everything in the village. In the chaos Nynaeve finds Egwene. The two quickly hide, but they are soon discovered by a Trolloc. The two draw out their knives and engage in combat. However, the two are unable to defeat the Trolloc. They are quickly cornered against the wall. The Trolloc raises its axe and prepares to strike them. Suddenly a beam of light strikes. It coils around the Trolloc like a snake. With the Trolloc's roar the beam tears it apart, turning it into a pile of flesh. It turns out to be Moiraine and Lon who have arrived to help. The woman uses her power to tear apart the Trolloc, and then unleashes the power of the Aes Sedai. The beam spirals and wraps around, rising from the ground beneath Moiraine's feet up into the sky. The beam summons heavenly thunder, and multiple lightning bolts strike down, hitting the Trolloc. The number of lightning bolts is so great that it ignites the trees in the village. The Two Rivers has become a battlefield filled with flames. Moiraine concentrates her energy to gather the power of light, while Lon protects her to prevent any harm. The two cooperate seamlessly, with Moiraine using spells for attacks, and Lon using weapons for physical attacks. They work together to slay numerous enemies. At this moment the women in the village are also inspired. They are no longer afraid, and pick up pitchforks to join forces against the Trolloc. The number of opponents exceeds the number of villagers. Rand and his father, who live on the mountain, are also under attack. A Trolloc resembling a werewolf breaks into their home. The father immediately grabs his spear and attacks. Rand also picks up his bow and shoots arrows at the Trolloc, but this also angers the Trolloc. The Trolloc overturns the table and knocks Rand to the ground. After a fierce fight, both the father and son are injured. The son is about to be attacked by the Trolloc. The father retrieves a sword from a wooden box under the bed. The sword is exceptionally sharp and cuts through the Trolloc's skin. In the end, the father and son work together to kill the Trolloc. In the village, Nynaeve is grabbed by an Trolloc. Egwene watches as her friend is dragged away by the enemy, leaving Egwene frozen in place. Meanwhile, Lon is pinned down by a Trolloc, unable to move. Seizing the opportunity, another Trolloc throws a knife from a distance, piercing Moiraine's shoulder while she is unprotected. The intense pain causes her to cease her spellcasting. The humans find themselves at a disadvantage in the war, and the Trolloc morale instantly rises. They swing their weapons and attack. Enduring the intense pain, Moiraine pulls out the knife and gathers beams of light from all directions. Using bricks from the houses as weapons, she struck the Trolloc with heavy blows one by one. The Trolloc are killed one by one, and as the last Trolloc falls, Moiraine and the house behind her collapse simultaneously. Lon quickly shields her with his body. Humanity achieves victory in the war, but at a great cost. The entire village has turned into a ravaged battlefield. In the early morning, Rand brings his father down the mountain to the village. The village is filled with injured or deceased villagers. He wants to find Nynaeve to treat his father's injuries. However, he learns from Egwene that Nynaeve was captured by Trolloc last night, and her whereabouts are still unknown. Moiraine approaches Rand's father and uses her magic to heal the poisoned wound on his shoulder. But instead of expressing gratitude, Rand believes that all of this is caused by Moiraine and Lon. Moiraine doesn't get angry. but patiently explains to the four of them. The Trolloc who attacked the village last night were just minions. Their master is the Dark, the Emperor of Darkness. The Dark can only be truly unsealed by the reincarnated True Dragon. Similarly, only with the help of the reincarnated True Dragon can the awakening Dark Lord be sealed once again, and the reincarnated True Dragon is among the four of them. The Trolloc raid on the village was also to capture the four of them and uncage the Dark. The four young individuals haven't fully adapted to their sacred mission. Another roar resounds, and in the distance on the mountain, torches gather together. Another Trolloc army is approaching. Moraine immediately instructs Lon to fetch the horses, and asks the four individuals to accompany them. The four of them grew up in the two rivers, and don't want to leave their hometown to travel an unknown path with people they just met. Moraine says that the Trolloc target is the four young individuals, and even if they don't leave, the Trolloc will still come after them. The four individuals don't want to put their parents and friends in danger, so they follow Moraine and Lon. Their destination is White Tower, which is the territory of the Aes Sedai. There they will meet up with other Aes Sedai and work together to fight against the Dark. The group hurries towards White Tower, while the Trolloc army chases them from day into night. The group arrives at a ferry crossing, and Moraine knows that Trolloc fear deep water, so she plans to cross the lake immediately to shake off the Trolloc, while the ferryman insists on waiting for his son before helping them cross. Moraine immediately offers 3 times the price. The ferryman quickly gets up and starts ferrying them. Just as they reach the middle of the lake, the Trolloc catch up to the ferry crossing. As expected, faced with the bottomless lake, the Trolloc army hesitates and stops at the ferry crossing, unwilling to proceed. At this moment, a monstrous creature without eyes or a nose riding a horse appears among the Trolloc army. It is the Dark's senior servant Fade. Fade can force lower-ranking Trolloc to do many things to prevent the enemy from crossing the lake by boat. Lon cuts the rope tied to the boat, and Moraine uses her magic. The ferry is quickly dragged underwater and destroyed by the magic. At this point, the ferryman who crossed with them is worried about his son's safety and refuses to continue the journey with the group. He turns around and jumps into the lake. However, at that moment, Moraine's spell has already been cast. Although the ferryman manages to swim to the side of the boat, he is eventually engulfed by the whirlpool along with the boat and disappears beneath the calm surface of the lake. Witnessing this scene, Moraine is filled with profound sorrow. Yet they must continue their journey. If they are caught, more than one person will perish. They keep pushing forward, and after much difficulty, they manage to shake off the pursuing Trolloc. They find a safe place to rest and take a break. Moraine uses her the one power to restore the horse's strength, and with her efforts the horse stands up from the ground once again. Each use of the one power drains her own energy, and as Aes Sedai she can only heal others but not herself. This makes her even weaker. At night, Moraine wakes up Egwene and takes her to a nearby forest. She senses that Egwene, like herself, possesses the one power. During a test using a pure but opaque gemstone resembling a lake, she discovers that Egwene possesses incredibly strong one power.
You don't listen to the wind, Egwene. It's the wind that listens to you.
While this doesn't prove that Egwene is the reincarnation of the True Dragon, Moraine advises Egwene to cherish this magical power and gives her the gemstone. In the late night, Rand is awakened by a sensation of something foreign in his throat. He feels nauseous and reaches into his throat, pulling out a dead bat. But something even more terrifying follows. A shadow slowly emerges from the forest, growing closer and transforming into a person with eyes glowing like embers. Rand suddenly wakes up, relieved that it was just a dream. However, upon waking up, the dead bat that appeared in his dream is right in front of him. He immediately finds his 3 companions and learns that they all had similar dreams last night. Rand once again suspects Moraine and believes that she must have intentionally caused them to have such dreams. After understanding the situation, Moraine doesn't explain much. She feels that the dream is not a good omen and requests to continue their journey immediately. On their way, they encounter Lon, who has returned from scouting. Lon anxiously informs them that a group of Whitecloaks is ahead. Although they are part of the forces of light, Whitecloaks consider Aes Sedai their enemies, especially a person who calls himself the son of Valda. This person takes pleasure in killing Aes Sedai and collects the serpent rings, which symbolize their identity as trophies, wearing them around his waist. He is also among the group ahead, and sure enough, they encounter Whitecloaks. After traveling for a while, Whitecloaks search their horses, and the son of Valda personally checks if the woman in charge of the team has hidden a serpent ring. Upon learning about the presence of Whitecloaks ahead, Moraine immediately takes off the ring and hands it to Lon for safekeeping. They continue their journey. after successfully evading the inspection. They move eastward relentlessly until dusk when they finally stop to rest. They divide the tasks and prepare to set up camp for rest. Perrin is responsible for fetching water. He finds a stream and fills the water pouches one by one. Just as Perrin is about to return to the camp, the wound on his leg caused by Trolloc's scratch suddenly starts to hurt. Perrin lifts his pants to examine the wound. While footsteps can be heard behind him, he immediately turns around and finds a pack of hungry wolves standing behind him. They are staring at the bleeding wound. He is frightened and unable to move, frozen in place. But at that moment the wound starts to bleed profusely, unable to stop. The pack of wolves is instantly captivated by the wound, and the alpha wolf slowly approaches him. It walks up to Perrin, locks eyes with him for a moment, and gently licks the wound. After tasting the blood, it doesn't harm Perrin, but swiftly leads the pack away from the scene. Perrin watches the departing wolves with confusion. When he returns to the camp at night, Moiraine has fallen into a coma due to exhaustion. In the late night, as everyone forms a circle to sleep, Egwene is awakened by a roar. She follows the direction of the sound and finds the Fade standing on a cliff opposite to her. Lan is also awakened, and the group continues their journey to escape the pursuit. Lan orders everyone to continue heading east towards the Forgotten City, and they gallop towards the east on horseback. The Trolloc army behind them relentlessly pursues, but suddenly all the horses come to a halt. It seems that there is something ahead that frightens the horses, and the Trolloc army that was chasing them doesn't catch up. They also stop in their tracks, afraid to proceed. The group looks up and sees a city wall torn apart appearing before them. This is the Forgotten City, and the evil power emanating from this place terrifies everyone. Even the Trolloc dare not enter. However, Lan still leads the group into the city, and the sights inside leave everyone in awe. The entire city seems to have been burned by a massive fire, and it is eerily silent without even a single bird chirping. Only the buildings here can tell the past prosperity. After settling down, Lan tells the four people about the history of this city. During the reign of the dominant Trolloc, this city refused to extend a helping hand to the outside world, and even built high walls. Yet the lives within the city vanished overnight. Afterward, people regarded this place as a cursed tomb, and the evil power that caused the disappearance of life resided in the center of the city. Lan warns the four people not to touch anything here, as not everyone will abide by the rules. The next morning, Matt is awakened by a strange sound. The sound resembles a human sigh rushing past his ears. He gets up and walks to the street, only to see a shadow entering a building across the street. Matt follows and discovers a treasure chest. He opens the chest and finds a dagger embellished with a ruby. Matt pulls the dagger out of its sheath, and something unbelievable happens. Outside on the street, a mass of black sand appears under the hooves of a horse. The black sand spreads towards the horse, causing it to neigh in fear. But soon the black sand engulfs the entire horse, and in an instant it turns into ashes. The entire process was extremely fast, without even a flicker of fire. The other horses panicked and fled, and the neighing of the horses awakened everyone, including the unconscious Moiraine. Seeing the black sand spreading everywhere on the ground, the group became chaotic, scattering in all directions. The black sand beneath their feet rapidly spread, separating the four young people. Before long, the entire city was almost completely engulfed by the black sand. Lan carried Moiraine and mounted the horse, galloping towards the outskirts of the city. Rand and Matt also escaped through a small window on the city wall, while the black sand seemed to be limited to the city's outskirts, unable to reach the areas outside the city. At this moment, Egwene and Perrin were forced to the top of the city wall, while evading the black sand. The black sand was about to reach their feet, leaving them no choice but to hold each other's hands and jump off the city wall. Fortunately, there was a river below, and the two of them fell into the water, saving their lives. At this point, the originally united group of 6 had been forced to split into 3 teams. They could only proceed in pairs, continuing their journey. Matt and Rand pushed a decaying log into the river, preparing to cross the river using its buoyancy. Lan and Moiraine had arrived in a forest, where Moiraine fell unconscious again. Lan picked up a water flask and fed water to Moiraine, but he suddenly felt a chill on his neck. Someone came up behind them and placed a knife against Lan's neck. Lan slowly turned his head, and to his surprise it was Nynaeve. It turns out that the Trolloc was dragging Nynaeve along. They encountered an injured member of their kind, and the Trolloc dropped the woman and devoured the injured Trolloc. The woman ran as fast as she could and arrived at a natural cave. The Trolloc pursued her into the cave, and the prey hid in one of the water pools inside the cave. faced with multiple water pools in front of it. The Trolloc couldn't determine which one was the hiding place of its prey. Soon the churning sound from one of the water pools caught its attention, and the Trolloc jumped into the pool to search for its prey. Nynaeve circled behind the Trolloc in the water, drew the dagger from her back, and stabbed it into the Trolloc's heart. The pool instantly turned red with blood, and Nynaeve successfully escaped. She followed the trail of the others, and eventually arrived here. She wanted to know where the 4 young people were now, but only Moiraine could track them. At this moment Moiraine fell into a coma due to severe injuries. Nynaeve could only heal her to help find the whereabouts of the other 4. Moiraine woke up under Nynaeve's treatment, but for complete recovery they would need the spells of the Aes Sedai. They continued their journey, and encountered a red sect Aes Sedai named Liandrin. Liandrin claimed to have captured a man, who claimed to be the reincarnation of the true dragon named Loghain. The reincarnation of the true dragon is male, which is a very dangerous matter for the Aes Sedai. Many years ago the One Power was contaminated by the darkness using dark magic. Since then males who possessed the One Power would go to any lengths to acquire more power, even harming those closest to them. That's why it is necessary to bring Loghain back to the White Tower for judgment. Afterward Moiraine and the other 2 followed Liandrin to the Green Sect camp. Under the care of Corrine the Green Sect Aes Sedai Moiraine finally recovered. She went to meet Loghain, the man who claimed to be the reincarnation of the true dragon. However, Moiraine believed that he was likely a false dragon. But when she saw Loghain, his immense power astonished her. He was even more powerful than any other male who had possessed the One Power before. It would require the combined efforts of 2 Aes Sedai to suppress him. Loghain, trapped in the cage, revealed a sinister smile. How could he, who was so powerful, fall into a trap set by the Aes Sedai? Unless his true intention was to pretend to be captured, then he would destroy the entire camp. As expected, the next day Loghain saw that the opportunity had come. He chose not to continue disguising himself, and merely opened his eyes. His immense power sent Liandrin and Corrine, who were guarding him, flying through the air. The impact knocked both of them unconscious. Loghain took the opportunity to use his dark power, and easily destroyed the cage. At this moment the camp is under attack. Loghain's army has arrived here. The soldiers shoot several arrows. The Aes Sedai in the camp use their magic to redirect the arrows. The arrows instantly turn into boomerangs, killing some of the charging soldiers. Despite the large number of enemies, they continue to attack the camp. Many Aes Sedai and Guardians fight alongside each other, doing their best to kill the enemy soldiers one by one. At this moment Moiraine has arrived at the dungeon where Loghain is held. The man in front of her claims to be the reincarnation of the true dragon, and possesses incredibly powerful abilities. Now he has broken free from the cage and stands before her. She is not nervous. Instead, she mocks him, just a false dragon whose mind is clouded by desire. Meanwhile, the unconscious Aes Sedai have regained consciousness. Corrine launches a surprise attack on Loghain, knocking him back several meters. The 3 Aes Sedai quickly adjust their stances, attempting to suppress him once again. But the man has been angered, and transforms his dark power into dark projectiles, attempting to pierce through the protective shield formed by the Aes Sedai and kill them. Corrine immediately erects a shield to protect her 2 sisters, but she herself is struck by a hidden weapon, and loses her breath. Outside the camp, Corrine's guardian Stepan senses she has been killed, and rushes back to the dungeon with a group of people including Lan. Seeing his contracted master lying on the ground, he becomes furious. Stepan raises his axe and swings it at Loghain, but it creates a crack in the protective barrier. Countless weapons shoot out from the barrier, striking down everyone present. Only Nynaeve managed to escape unscathed by hiding in a blind spot. She ran to Lan's side. After spending several days together, Nynaeve has developed feelings for him, but at this moment his throat has been cut. No matter how much she tries to apply pressure, blood continues to gush from the wound. Overwhelmed by grief, Nynaeve incredibly unleashes powerful One Power. She shines as bright as the rising sun, instantly illuminating the dim dungeon. The immense power instantly heals the Aes Sedai and Guardians, who are on the verge of death. Loghain is astonished by the overwhelming energy before him. The healed Aes Sedai quickly unite and use magic to restrain him. Liandrin stands at the forefront, with the other Aes Sedai surrounding her. They don't have time to bring Loghain back to the White Tower. They need to retrieve the power within him as soon as possible. Led by Liandrin, the other Aes Sedai join forces. And the One Power within Loghain is extracted and transferred to Liandrin. In the moment the power is extracted, the dark force escapes from Loghain's body. After the power is retrieved, Loghain lies on the ground shedding tears. Once so mighty, he has now become an ordinary man, but it was his excessive desire for power in the past that gave birth to the darkness within his heart. Both sides suffered heavy losses in this battle. The surviving Aes Sedai buried the brave warriors who sacrificed their lives in battle. Then they continued their journey towards the White Tower. After experiencing all this, Lon couldn't help but worry about the 4 young individuals. The boy didn't expect it. The girl who was gentle moments ago, now she is pointing her sword at him. In front of him is the girl with the sword. Behind him is a sealed iron door. At the critical moment of life and death, he crashes through the iron door to escape from danger. The boy instantly activates the sprint mode. The boy's name is Rand. Before the age of 20, he had been living in a peaceful village. One day he was suddenly told that he might be the reincarnated true dragon. This special identity has brought him numerous difficulties and obstacles since they got separated. He and Matt have been moving towards the direction of the White Tower. The two of them arrived at a village. At the village entrance there were iron cages hanging with dried corpses. In this place, the guilty ones would be hung in the iron cages until their bodies dried up. Yet Matt noticed a gem on the waist of a dried corpse. At nightfall, he turned back to the village entrance. Just as he was about to take action, an old man behind him called out to him. Seeing the person approaching him with a knife, Matt instantly became nervous, but the old man meant no harm. He just wanted the deceased to rest in peace. After learning about Matt's intention, the old man cut the rope of the iron cage, urging him to act quickly. After finishing the task, he would bury the bodies together with him. On Rand's side, he was happily chatting with the innkeeper. The atmosphere was quite delicate. The innkeeper stood up and offered a kiss, but she was rejected by the other person. She drew out a sword. She wanted to capture Rand. It turns out, the darkness had already bought the innkeeper's soul. She had known all along that Matt and Rand were candidates for the true dragon. Her kiss just now was just a seductive ploy to capture the two and gain favor with the darkness. That was her true intention. Rand was no match for the innkeeper. He wanted to break through the door and escape. The door made of ironwood was very sturdy. Even 3 people couldn't break it open. But the young man refused to give up. He actually crashed through the wooden door. After escaping, Rand coincidentally met Matt, who was returning to the village. Seeing his companion running for his life, Matt was scared and started running as well. The innkeeper, familiar with the village, quickly caught up with them. The two of them were blocked. The innkeeper advised them not to struggle. She said she had already sent a message to the Fade. Today they couldn't escape. But before she could finish speaking, a familiar knife flew towards them, and it pierced the innkeeper's throat. The woman fell to the ground. It turned out, an old man from the village entrance arrived upon hearing the commotion. He saved the two of them. After listening to the old man's words, they finally learned the innkeeper had already sold her soul and body to the darkness. The old man asked them to follow him to move eastward, towards the White Tower. There was no better option now. The two of them followed the old man on their journey. The next day the 3 of them arrived in a village. They stayed in a villager's barn. In return they cleaned the stable. In the evening Matt walked to the trough and started vomiting. But the black sand that appeared in the Forgotten City now appeared on the ground. The black sand crawled into his mouth. Suddenly a little girl appeared behind him. She handed Matt a piece of bread as a reward for cleaning the stable. The little girl reminded him of his 2 sisters back home. Matt talked about his sisters and expressed his longing for them. The girl gave him her cloth doll. In the late night, Rand was awakened by a nightmare, but he realized that Matt was missing. He immediately went outside with the old man to search for him. They arrived in front of a house. After pushing the door open, they saw the farmer's family lying in a pool of blood, and there was Matt with his back turned to them, empty eyes, and covered in sweat. He had been possessed by the dark forces. He was holding the dagger they found in the Forgotten City. He raised his hand and pointed in a direction. They followed his gaze and saw the Fade standing before them. The old man drove away the 2 young men. He stayed behind to face the Fade alone. After walking out the door, Matt regained consciousness. The little girl, however, was lying beside the stable. He looked at the girl in shock. He couldn't believe that he had killed the farmer's family. But there was no time to think, so the 2 of them had to quickly ride away on horses to escape. After a month of traveling, they finally arrived near the White Tower. Meanwhile, Moraine and the other 2 had already arrived at the White Tower first. On the other side, Egwene and Perrin were wandering in tattered clothes on a grassland. Fortunately, they encountered a trading guild. Unlike others, this trading guild followed the way of the leaf. After encountering danger, they wouldn't choose to fight back, because even if a leaf is crushed, buried, or burned, it eventually becomes part of nature. They believed in this principle and thought that their compatriots whose lives were taken by enemies would one day return to this world through the Wheel of Time. The 2 of them followed the members of the trading guild towards the White Tower, but encountered White Cloaks on the way. The son of Valda saw 2 candidates and requested to take them away. The female leader of the trading guild refused his request, although Perrin and Egwene were outsiders, who temporarily joined their traveling group. The members of the trading guild still considered them as kin. Under the command of the female leader, the members of the trading guild joined hands and formed a human wall, blocking Whitecloaks outside. The son of Valda slapped the female leader, and immediately a young man from the trading guild took the two individuals and fled towards a nearby village. Whitecloaks engaged in a physical altercation with the members of the trading guild, treating them as punching bags rather than fellow humans. The three individuals fled towards the village, but Whitecloaks quickly caught up to them. One of them riding a horse knocked down the guide, causing the boy to lose consciousness. A few Whitecloaks surrounded Egwene and Perrin. Inside the White Tower, Stepan changed into white clothes. Since his father's death, he had never worn white clothes again. His father's passing had caused severe trauma to the young Stepan. He would drink himself into a stupor every day at the bar. That was his way of life. It was also at the bar where he met the Aes Sedai's Karine. The rebellious and fallen youth encountered the promising young Aes Sedai's, and the two gradually became friends. When Karine needed to choose a guardian, she was already an outstanding Aes Sedai. There were many candidates for the position of guardian, but Stepan was chosen and became Karine's guardian. Since then, in order to match the strength of his contracted master, he fervently trained his martial skills every day. The two of them fought side by side for so many years. It is the duty of the guardian to protect the Aes Sedai's, and it is rare for Aes Sedai to die before their guardian. Filled with self-blame and remorse, Stepan walked up to the furnace, tears in his eyes. He kissed Karine's serpent ring and returned it to the furnace. Meanwhile, in Whitecloak's camp, they brought Egwene and Perrin here, as requested by the son of Valda. Egwene was forcefully bathed by a group of men, dressed in a white cloak, and her hands and feet were tied, leaving her bound to a chair. The son of Valda, on the other hand, was enjoying delicious food and fine wine. He demanded that the girl unleash her one power as guidance, so he could determine if she was a Aes Sedai and then kill her, satisfying his twisted psyche. But Egwene refused to use her one power, so when he saw her non-compliance, the son of Valda had Perrin brought in, intending to force Egwene to use her one power as guidance. The boy was bound, gagged, and lying face down on a chair. The son of Valda drew out a knife. He slashed through Perrin's clothes, and then he picked up the knife and cut across the boy's back, leaving 3 knife marks in sight. Perrin was in so much pain that he wanted to scream, but the gag in his mouth prevented him, forcing him to swallow the agony. Egwene watched her companion endure such torture, feeling immense pain in her heart. The son of Valda demanded that the two make a choice, as only one person could survive. He ripped off the rope from Perrin's mouth and then walked out of the tent. When he returned, it was already evening. Seeing that the two still hadn't made a choice, he took the knife and cut a horizontal incision across the vertical wound on Perrin's back. The immense pain made the boy scream, and a golden light sparked in his eyes. Egwene could no longer bear her companion being bullied in such a manner. She began summoning her one power, intending to launch an attack against the son of Valda. However, despite their efforts, only a small spark reached the man. The son of Valda mocked the girl in front of him, unaware that Perrin behind him had used his inner power to break free from the restraints. Perrin's body erupted with immense power. The mysterious force within him instantly burned through the ropes, and his eyes emitted a golden glow. The overwhelming presence frightened the son of Valda, leaving him frozen in place. Egwene took the opportunity to free herself from the ropes, grabbed the knife, and stabbed the man in the heart from behind. The son of Valda died on the spot. Egwene picked up the serpent rings collected by the son of Valda, and the two hurriedly escaped from the tent. Outside, chaos reigned, as a pack of wild wolves appeared from somewhere, attacking Whitecloaks. Just as they were about to leave, a fierce wolf rushed towards them, barking wildly. Egwene was terrified, but Perrin beside her seemed to understand the wolf's howl, and reassured Egwene that it wouldn't harm them. The hungry wolf left after a few howls. Inside the White Tower, Lan was worried about Stepan, and went to check on his condition. The two of them drank tea together, chatting and enjoying each other's company, unaware of how much time had passed. Lan was awakened by the morning sunlight, still holding the teacup from the previous night. He had slept for a long time, but he still felt exhausted. Stepan was nowhere to be found. Lan walked to the window and noticed the yellow tea bag on the table. It was a type of tea that helps with sleep. Stepan brought it from Nynaeve not long ago. Lan immediately inspected the room and noticed that one knife was missing from Stepan's knife rack. Lan rushed outside to search for him and eventually found Stepan near a stone statue. Unfortunately, it was too late. Stepan knelt on the ground with the knife plunged into his abdomen, having taken his own life. Afterwards, the White Tower's Aes Sedai and guardians gathered together to send off Stepan's soul. Shortly after, Lan found the whereabouts of Mat and Rand and immediately informed Moiraine. The two of them quickly set off and, upon reaching the room where the two young men were, they discovered that Matt wasn't doing well. He was lying in bed muttering to himself. Suddenly Matt pulled out a dagger and attempted to attack Moiraine, but was promptly noticed. In that moment of seeing the dagger, Moiraine understood. The boy from the Forgotten City took something he shouldn't have, and became controlled by it. She used her one power to transfer the dark energy within Matt back into the dagger. Lon immediately wrapped it in linen cloth. Even powerful guardians like him dare not directly touch this evil dagger. Only now did Rand finally let go of his guard and prejudices, and accepted Moiraine. Although the connection between Matt and the dagger has been severed, his heart has already been corrupted by the dark energy. Moiraine reminds Rand to watch over him. Later that day, the Aes Sedai of the Yellow Sect informed Moiraine that Perrin and Egwene had arrived at the White Tower 2 days ago. She immediately went to check on them. Upon meeting, Egwene asked about the whereabouts of Matt and Rand. Moiraine lied and said she hadn't encountered them yet. She arranged for the Aes Sedai to treat Perrin's injuries. Now everyone has safely arrived at the White Tower. After the events in the underground, Nynaeve has also joined their group. They are also accompanied by a builder. Moiraine is determined not to waste any more time. She plans to take a few people to the Eye of the World, the prison where the darkness is held. There they will find out who the true dragon is, and the darkness will be defeated. But she did not tell the 5 of them that, after the darkness's defeat, all those who are not the true dragon will perish. They arrived at the gateway, and Moiraine used her one power to open the portal of time and space, which would swiftly transport them to the Eye of the World. Taking a step inside the portal is equivalent to walking 160 kilometers in the mortal realm. Moiraine entered first. The others curiously observed the gate of the world, but didn't stop their footsteps. However, only Matt hesitated and didn't follow the others. No matter how the others called out to him, he remained in place and refused to move forward. The sudden withdrawal of their companions startled the 5 of them. Nynaeve pleaded with Moiraine to open the gate again, but Moiraine stated that Matt had made his own decision. The builder also mentioned that using the one power here would attract the attention of the black wind creatures, which feed on human souls, putting everyone in great danger. The group could only continue their journey. There was no trace of light within the gate. The group held torches and walked cautiously, fearing to fall into the abyss beneath their feet. After about 10 minutes, Perrin suddenly said there was something ahead. The others looked in the direction he pointed, but it was pitch black and they couldn't see anything. Perrin at some point gained night vision, and continued walking for a short distance. Then where he had pointed, a guiding stone appeared. It had directions carved on it, but someone intentionally damaged the crucial guiding stone. Moiraine and Lon immediately realized they were being followed. Although the guiding stone was damaged, the builders could still decipher the inscriptions given enough time. Moiraine asked everyone to rest in place until the inscriptions were deciphered. Then they would continue their journey. The group then slept in place to regain their strength. In her sleep, Egwene was suddenly awakened by a strange sound. She woke everyone up to investigate, and suddenly a Trolloc appeared before them. Startled, Egwene used her one power to repel the Trolloc. This attracted the attention of the black wind creatures, and they swarmed towards the group. Egwene apologized to everyone for using the one power, but they didn't have much time left. The black wind creatures moved swiftly, and had the ability to see the deepest fears of their targets. They whispered into their ears, attempting to confuse their minds and devour their souls. The only option for the group now was to escape towards the nearest gate. They ran as fast as they could, but the sounds of the black wind creatures grew closer. Just as the group was about to reach the gate, the black wind creatures found them, and their torches were extinguished instantly. In the darkness, humans were more susceptible to losing themselves, and the creatures started whispering. Each whispered word struck a chord in the deepest pain within several individuals. Upon hearing that she would lose everyone one by one, Nynaeve's immense one power erupted once again, creating a massive protective shield to shield everyone. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Moiraine used his one power to open the gate, and everyone hurriedly escaped. They arrived at the fortress city of Faldara, the final stronghold against the monsters. It was only a day's journey from the Eye of the World, and also the second homeland of Lan. Here everyone can rest for a night. Rand and Perrin are still immersed in the grief caused by the whispers, but they can only continue their journey. Before long they arrived at the city. They then met the lord of the city in the Great Hall. Moiraine warned him about the recent rampage of the Trollocs. The arrogant lord didn't take her words seriously. Instead, he boasted about his army and the glorious history of fighting against the Trollocs. He believed that the stronghold could withstand any invaders. Moiraine said that the darkness was moving his troops, which made the lord nervous. Meanwhile, Peyton emerged from the gateway. He was a small merchant who frequently sold goods in the Two Rivers village. His only customer was Matt for the past 2 years. For 2 years Payton still went there to sell his goods. In reality there was no such foolish merchant. Payton was a loyal servant. The merchant disguise was just a facade. Payton's true identity was a friend of the dark serving the darkness. For 2 years he had been observing the 4 candidates. Now he unexpectedly followed them to the border. However, this time he didn't bring a merchant's cart, but instead a life and death crisis. War is imminent, yet Moraine still doesn't know who the reincarnated dragon is. But soon someone knocked on her door and claimed to be the reincarnated dragon. That person is Rand. In fact, this person has always known that he is the dragon. It wasn't his physical body that broke down the iron door, but the power within him. In the portal, it was Rand who repelled the Trollocs. The Black Wind's whispers further confirmed this. He has been avoiding it, but the whispers in his ears say that he cannot escape his destiny. Rand found the seer seeking a denial from their words. The seer witnessed his birth scene, where he was born on a battlefield 20 years ago. He was brought into this world by his mother, with the help of his foster father who was an enemy soldier at the time. The seer proclaimed Rand's birth as a miracle, which inspired him to accept his destiny. To protect his loved ones and companions, he knocked on Moraine's door. The two set out to find the darkness and reach the eye of the world. They must pass through the blight like a maze. The mirrors stretched ahead of them, appearing as a maze of countless withered trees. In reality, they devour everything in their path. After walking inside for an hour, Moraine suggested taking a rest. They wanted to regroup and continue their journey in the best condition to confront the darkness. After Rand fell asleep, the blight indeed began devouring him. Rand woke up, but a more horrifying scene unfolded before his eyes. Moraine was stabbed in the neck from behind by the darkness. Rand immediately got up and shot an arrow into the darkness' eye. Not only did it cause no harm, but the darkness effortlessly absorbed it. Instead of getting angry, the darkness invited Rand to rebuild the world together, according to their preferences. The boy didn't believe this speech, and then stabbed himself in the stomach with a sword, to force himself awake from the dream. Rand indeed woke up, but everything was like a dream. Even the words Moraine said matched exactly as in the dream. He realized that the darkness was much more powerful than he had imagined. The distant roar caught the attention of the two. The Trolloc army was already attacking the fortress. They had to act quickly. Before long, the two finally passed through the blight and arrived at the eye of the world. The legendary darkness was right there in the deep pit before them. The two descended the stairs to the bottom of the pit, where the enormous Taiji gate seemed to be calling out to Rand. He placed his hand on it, and in that instant of contact, Rand found himself back in Two Rivers. Here he and Egwene had a warm home and a lovely child. Rand was aware that all of this was false, but the scene was so beautiful, and Egwene felt so real. He could feel the touch of the other person, but suddenly everything froze. The darkness appeared before him and stated that everything could become a reality if Rand joined. In reality, the darkness approached Moraine. His power is overwhelmingly strong. Moraine tried to use the one power to resist, but the darkness stripped away all of her source, leaving her as an ordinary person. With just a flick of his finger, Moraine held a knife against Rand's neck. She stated that if he chose to join the darkness upon waking, she would kill Rand immediately. In the city of Fal Dara, the Lord finally realized the imminent danger. He ordered someone to retrieve the secret weapon. While leading his troops to defend the pass, they mounted their horses and charged towards the enemy. Before leaving, he instructed his sister, who used to be an Aes Sedai, to guard the city. Nynaeve and Egwene joined her, and if the attacking force was defeated, they would stop the Trolloc army from advancing. At this moment, the Fate had already led the Trolloc army to the pass. After a command was given, the Trolloc charged towards the city walls. The Lord also issued orders, and several volleys of arrows were shot at the Trolloc army. The two sides fought until nightfall, although humans held a favorable geographical position. The number of Trolloc exceeded their expectations. They formed ladders and climbed the city walls. One Trolloc happened to reach the arrow slit, where the Lord was positioned. Taking advantage of the moment when the Lord was changing arrows, the Trolloc threw a spear, piercing the Lord's heart and pinning him to the wall. The Lord sacrificed himself in this battle, and the pass was quickly breached. Watching the Trolloc army surging towards the city, the sister channeled the one power into Egwene and the other three, absorbing more power from it. The Trolloc quickly approached them, and the sister instantly unleashed a powerful force, summoning lightning from the sky to kill the Trolloc. The reason this move was so powerful was that each of them had to gather immense amounts of energy. Soon one person ignited due to gathering too much energy. If they didn't stop in time, all of them would die. However, the sister had lost control by this point, and Nynaeve and Egwene couldn't hold on much longer. The energy continued to pour down from the sky. To protect Egwene, Nynaeve absorbed all the energy within her, at the cost of accelerating her own burning rate. At this moment, the sister finally stopped, but unfortunately it was too late. Only Egwene survived. The Trolloc at the pass have all been dealt with, but danger has arrived on the other side of the town. Payton has already entered the city with the Fade. Their target is the secret weapon, the Horn of Valir. Whoever blows the horn at the end of the war will be joined by the mightiest heroes. Only the true dragon can use it. The Fade and Payton killed everyone guarding the horn and obtained the secret weapon. They want to turn the dragon against his allies and achieve victory in the war. By the time Perrin returns, the builders and others have already been killed by them. Payton tells Perrin that although there is only one dragon, Nynaeve, Perrin, Mat and Egwene are all Ta'veren to the Wheel of Time. The death of any one of them would cause a shift in the Wheel of Time. This is also why Perrin was not killed. At this moment none of them realized that Mat, who grew up with them, had joined the darkness. Egwene, looking at the charred Nynaeve in her arms, bursts into tears. The one power within her is awakened once again, miraculously resurrecting Nynaeve. Rand sees through the darkness's plot. The scene with Egwene may be beautiful, but it is nothing more than an illusion. The darkness tempts Rand, offering him freedom if he joins him. Rand takes out a magical artifact from his pocket and focuses all the one power into it. His rationality brings him back to reality, back to the eye of the world. Rand uses the fully charged artifact to destroy the darkness. Strangely, the darkness's face shows no expression of pain, but instead reveals a smile. At this moment Rand can feel immense power surging within him, but he cannot find any joy in it. Instead, he worries that one day he will be consumed by the evil forces of darkness and harm the people he deeply loves. Rand asks Moiraine to inform others that he is dead, and then he leaves alone. Since then there has been no news from him. Moiraine picks up the shattered heartstone from the ground, feeling uneasy. She can't understand why the heartstone was shattered. After careful consideration, Moiraine comes to the conclusion that the darkness has not been defeated. This is not the end of everything, but only the beginning. The first season of the TV series The Wheel of Time concludes here. The show tells the story of Aes Sedai Moiraine, who leads 5 young men and women on an adventure that spans worlds in order to defeat the darkness. The ending sets the stage for the next season. If you enjoy my channel, please consider subscribing.